Hey friends, Ashton here again with Gents, back with another fragrance review. Today we're going to be taking a look at a 2015 release from Histoires de Parfums. This is not a blue bottle, which is the name of the fragrance. We'll go ahead and check out the bottle, even though honestly there's not a ton to see there. Then we'll go ahead and jump into the fragrance itself. Alright, let's go ahead and check out the presentation. Obviously it's a blue bottle. It's in the shape of a 120 ml Histoires de Parfums bottle like all the others from the line. And yeah, it's just blue all the way around. Cap's a little darker than the bottle. On the bottom you have your typical information, your sticker with badge code info, etc. And then your atomizer. It sprays out a decent amount. But yeah, the bottle is just straight up blue. It looks nice though. I mean, in your collection it sets itself apart a little bit, so I don't really have any issues with it. I guess they just wanted to go with something a little different than their typical bottles that they use. This is not a blue bottle, has an interesting open. It's very strongly aldehydic, and honestly aldehydes are the main note group the entire way through. It's the dominant force of this fragrance. There's also a little bit of sweetness and a semi-metallic tone, and that metallic tone also kind of carries through for a lot of this fragrance. There's a little bit of orange in the opening, but it's not a juicy or bright orange, and it's kind of buried underneath those aldehydes. Really, it's more like an orange cream that kind of wafts up through the aldehydes. So while you're mainly getting assaulted, especially at the beginning, by an abrasive kind of aldehydic smell, you also pick up little tones of orange cream in there. The abrasiveness is really evident at the beginning, especially for someone that doesn't like that kind of fragrance, a very strong aldehyde fragrance. But about 45 minutes in, that starts to die down and the abrasiveness kind of gets a rounded edge, so it's not really assaulting your nose. The sweetness in this most likely is coming from the honey. It's not really like a sugared honey, and it's not really a realistic honey note itself, but there is that semi-sweetness that kind of goes the whole way through this fragrance. And while it is linear, it's not linear in the sense that it never changes. There's just not really that big transition point between the open and the mid and the mid and the base, or even just from the open to the base. It just kind of slowly meanders through the whole progression of the scent with aldehydes riding on top. So you have geranium poking through at one point in the mid, and it just kind of, you know, the scent kind of wafts up through the aldehydes, and as you dry down you get more musk and even a little bit of patchouli. It's definitely not a dirty patchouli, and honestly it doesn't come through over the aldehydes that strongly, but it's there. So you do have changes, and in that sense I guess it's not completely linear, but it's not really anything major. The main note stays aldehydes the whole way through. You just have subtle changes in kind of what is playing with the aldehydes and popping off of your skin the most. Honestly, I kind of like the fragrance. I can see where not everyone would, and I can see where honestly the majority of just everyday people would either dislike it or be indifferent. It's kind of warm, a little sweet, and then you have the nuances of some of the notes poking through with the aldehydes. But at the same time, it's kind of cold, synthetic, soulless, and almost robotic, where it's just very obviously not a natural scent, and they don't really make any kind of attempt to cover that up. It is what it is, and I think that's what they were going for. The longevity and projection are both great for this fragrance. It lasts a very long time, 8 hours plus for me each time that I wore it. If you get great performance, then you'll get more than that, because usually fragrances are kind of, you know, mediocre on my skin. I don't have great skin for fragrance. It lasts, like I said, a very long time, and it projects really well. So this is a fragrance that kind of may lend itself with that semi-metallic kind of semi-sweetness to maybe like a spring or fall, but you can wear it anytime you want. Just adjust sprays up or down like any fragrance that performs really well, and you should be okay. The target market for this, I'm honestly not sure what it is, because as far as people that really like fresh scents and people-pleasing type scents, this isn't far enough in that direction to warrant a purchase, especially at a niche price. But then other people who may be more into things that are more adventurous and things of that nature aren't really going to be drawn to it either, because it's not necessarily that far out on the adventurous side or the daring side. It's just somewhere in between. It's like a little bit fresh with, you know, the obvious chemical aldehyde backbone, and maybe a little bit adventurous because it does go so far in that direction, but not enough to really set you apart if you're the type of person that really wants something that's going to set you apart from other people. So yeah, it's just in this weird middle ground there. I find it enjoyable, but even though I do kind of like it, it's not something that I myself would really reach for, because along with those two groups that I just mentioned, you know, if I want something more fresh, then I'm going to get something more fresh, and if I want something more daring, I'm going to get something more daring. It just kind of falls in this middle ground, and that's probably the biggest drawback from the fragrance itself. I like it okay, but if you came up to me and said, hey, would you buy this for retail price, I would say no. And if you said, well, would you buy it for $80? And for me to wear this personally, would I buy it for $80? Probably not. And honestly, you're not going to get it for cheaper than that, most likely. So that's probably the big drawback. It's neither a people pleaser or fresh or super versatile, and at the same time, it's not something that's necessarily so far out on the adventurous or daring or very, very unique side that anyone's really going to jump on it. Alright guys, that's all I've got on this one. Aldehydes pretty much rule this fragrance. There are notes that come out a little bit like geranium, musk, orange, but they just kind of peek through and fall by the wayside. They're almost like a garnish to the main dish, which is just straight up chemically aldehydes. It comes off a little metallic, a little warm, a little sweet, but it's not something that's really gonna blow many people away, I would imagine. If you're after compliments, I'm not sure how well this one would do. Personally, I just have so many other fragrances that work better. I don't really foresee myself wearing it that much, so it's one that I will probably end up splitting out and then either keep just for the bottle or selling it outright. Let me know if you've smelled this. Let me know what you think about it. As always, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.